This study takes place in Ariana Brown's kindergarten classroom. Within the classroom, students have demonstrated decreased engagement as evidenced by reduced observable participation, attention, and involvement during Tier 1 phonics instruction. The lessons since the beginning of the year have followed a highly repetitive, scripted format. During these phonics lessons, many students display low engagement, including putting their heads down, wiggling in their seats, avoiding participation, saying comments such as, "This is boring," and requiring frequent redirection to stay on task. These behavioral observations suggest that the repetitive nature of instruction may be contributing to reduced involvement in phonics learning activities. Early literacy skills and strategies are foundational to future academic success. As such, a decline in engagement during phonics instruction is a paramount concern. This study will examine whether incorporating multisensory instructional approaches during grade-level phonetic pattern instruction increases kindergarten students' engagement. These findings may inform educators seeking practical strategies to support student engagement when working with a more rigid, scripted, and mandated curriculum.
Hello, my name is Natalie Kirshner, and I will be introducing the concept of multisensory instruction. Multisensory instruction is a teaching approach that engages multiple sensory pathways during learning. So instead of relying solely on a single mode of instruction, such as listening or reading, multisensory learning works to incorporate visual, auditory, tactile, and kinesthetic activities. This allows students to see, hear, say, and physically interact with literacy concepts as they are learning them. Research suggests and shows us that this approach can be significant in supporting early literacy development. Several studies have found that multisensory phonics instruction can improve phonemic awareness, which is a critical foundational skill for reading. For example, El-Ghatmi and Ghonim in 2024 found that multisensory phonics instruction improved students' literacy skill development while also increasing their participation in lessons. Similarly, Ong and colleagues in 2025 found that multisensory synthetic phonics instruction actually improved phonemic awareness for students receiving English as a new language support. Ahokas and colleagues in 2024 also found that rhythm-based multisensory instruction improved phonological awareness and reading outcomes. There's many other research that highlights the role of multisensory learning in improving both engagement and reading performance. Kalat and Abbas in 2025 found that multisensory learning approaches improved reading fluency and phonemic awareness among first grade students, which was highly engaging for this population of learners. DeWine and Chai in 2024 also found that multisensory strategies actually increase student engagement when teaching decodable, high-frequency words. In addition to foundational skills, multisensory learning can also support much broader literacy outcomes. Yulmazlar and Gorgon from 2022 found that classrooms that were enriched and really submerging themselves into multisensory reading activities improved students' reading comprehension, strategies, and motivation. Research can also suggest that multisensory processing can support cognitive development, which includes working memory, particularly when that component of auditory and visual information are being combined. Overall, the literature suggests that multisensory instruction is engaging and inclusive, and it's an approach that supports phonemic awareness, reading development, and literacy learning across a very wide range of students, as you will hear later on in this literature review.
The reading process is multifaceted as it includes a wide range of skills and processes that work together to achieve the goal of comprehending text. According to the National Rating Panel, they define 5 pillars that are critical to reading instruction, which include phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Specifically focusing on phonics, El-Ghatmi and Ghonim clearly defined this term as the understanding of the relationship between phonemes, which are the smallest units of sound, and graphemes, which are the smallest units of written language that represent phonemes. Throughout research, it has been largely understood that phonics instruction can be categorized into three main approaches. These approaches include top down, which is also known as the whole language approach, bottom up, and interactive. Across studies examining the effectiveness of multisensory phonics instruction on students' reading development, many researchers note the bottom up approach to be the most effective at establishing strong foundational skills needed for future success. This includes letter sound relationships and word recognition skills. By taking a synthetic approach to phonics instruction, which emphasizes the explicit and systematic teaching of phonemes and blending them together to make words, and combining it with multisensory strategies, research continues to provide results that indicate this form of instruction to be beneficial to all learners, especially students learning English as a second language and at-risk learners. With one-to-one letter sound correspondences being a strong foundation for reading fluency, DeWine and Hanna's study strategically investigates the impact that multisensory strategies combined with Elkonin boxes, which are used to represent the individual sounds and words, have on students' reading and writing of decodable high-frequency words. Such approaches that start by having students examine the individual sounds of words through methods such as visual, kinesthetic, and tactile modes of learning were shown in DeWine and Hanna's study to cause the experimental group, the group that received the multisensory phonics instruction, to outperform the control group on measures of word recognition. Needless to say, it is important to acknowledge the understanding brought forth in Petrescu and Helms-Park's study that the English language has inconsistent grapheme-phoneme correspondences, making it essential that children are being taught the specific phonetic patterns that govern a word's pronunciation. As previously noted, ensuring that phonics instruction is systematically and explicitly taught is the main predictor of how effective instruction will be. To further elaborate on these terms, Algodny and Gonim define explicit instruction as the way the teacher delivers instruction, while systematic indicates the way instruction, or in other words, the curriculum, is designed. In the longitudinal study previously mentioned, developed by Petrescu and Helms-Park, they exemplify what systematic and explicit phonics instruction looks like, along with the effects it has on reading outcomes. They strategically developed an intervention for a child who started this study at the age of 5 to receive multisensory phonics instruction that focused on matching letter sounds to their graphemes, given that this is the key to achieving the alphabetic principle. As he developed mastery of this skill, he was then taught how to recognize open, closed, and silent E syllables, first in one-syllable words and then in two-syllable words. By the end of this study, where the child started at the age of 5 and ended at the age of 9, his word identification skills significantly improved, and his reading fluency at both the sentence and paragraph level increased as he mastered the 6-syllable types. All in all, explicit and systematic phonics instruction that follows a bottom-up approach in addition to the inclusion of multisensory approaches is important for setting readers up for success. During phonics instruction, it is crucial for emergent readers to reach a level of mastery of letter-sound correspondences before applying this knowledge to decoding words. For children to become fluent readers, the analysis of individual sounds and words can help orthographically map these words into long-term memory for instant retrieval. As such, phonics instruction should include various modes of learning that aim to establish these foundational skills needed for advanced reading to occur.
Phonological processing. Active participation is essential for phonological awareness. Phonological awareness develops when students actively listen to, produce, and manipulate sounds in spoken language. In early literacy instruction, it's crucial that students respond frequently by blending, segmenting, or identifying sounds. And when instruction relies heavily on passive and repetitive methods, students have fewer opportunities for meaningful interaction with sounds, which can hinder both engagement and skill development. Incorporating multisensory activities can increase the likelihood that students will actively participate in phonological tasks. Multisensory learning enhances phonological processing. Phonological processing can improve when instruction involves multiple sensory pathways, such as visual, auditory, and tactical. When kindergarten students see letters, say sounds, move their bodies, or manipulate materials, they are more likely to stay engaged and make stronger connections between sounds and symbols. Therefore, multisensory strategies can address reduced engagement and often observed in traditional scripted phonics instructions. Engagement is key to developing early literacy skills. Student engagement is crucial for developing phonological processing skills. When students show attention, participation, and involvement, they have more opportunities to participate, phonemic awareness, and phonics skills. On the other hand, disengaged behaviors such as avoiding participation, putting their heads down, or needing frequent redirection can limit their interaction with phonological tasks. This study explores whether multisensory instruction can increase engagement during phonics lessons. Repetition alone may not meet the needs of all learners, so repetition is commonly used in phonics instruction to reinforce sound-symbol relationships. However, highly scripted, repetitive lessons may not meet the learning needs for all kindergartner students. Some students benefit more from varied instructional approaches that include movement, interaction, and hands-on learning, and incorporating multisensory strategies can be an effective way to reinforce phonological processing while maintaining student engagement. Foundational phonological skills are critical for reading development. Phonological processing skills, including phonemic awareness and the ability to connect sounds with letters, are essential for decoding and subsequent reading success. Since kindergarten is a vital time for developing these skills, it is important to keep students engaged during phonics instruction, exploring instructional strategies that support both engagement and phonological skill development, and can help educators enhance early literacy instruction.
Hi, this is Kevin. I'm going to be talking about motivation and engagement, relating especially to multisensory strategies in the classroom. Motivation and engagement are vital elements of teaching and learning. In terms of learning, motivation is the reason or the desire, the driving force behind students wanting to learn. Engagement is how effectively a lesson or activity holds the attention of a student. According to Kelly DeWine in Hannah Chai's article, Beyond Elkonin Boxes, Using Multisensory Strategies to Master Decodable High-Frequency Words with First Graders, motivation and engagement in learning will help strengthen students' learning and help support them while they take risks in learning. So strengthening learning is one of the most important benefits of motivation and engagement. There are two types of motivation, according to Hande Sadia Yilmazlar and Izzet Gorgon. In their article, The Effect of Learning Environments Enriched with Multisensory Reading Activities on Reading Comprehension Strategies, and Reading Motivation, they discuss both of those types of motivation. The first type of motivation is intrinsic motivation, which includes ideas like curiosity, interest, and preference for the difficult. The second type of motivation being extrinsic motivation, which includes ideas like recognition, note-taking, adaptation, social dimension, and competition. So it's sort of like almost thinking about it like internal factors versus external factors that affect a student's motivation for learning. There are both, and they're both extremely important. So motivation and engagement we already know that they're important for learning. We saw that earlier on. It strengthens learning. And multisensory strategies are shown to increase motivation and engagement. Many multisensory tools and strategies have been developed and used in the classroom. According to Sri Yuliani, Anisa Mardatila, and Ari Lenarta in their article Evaluating Interactive Murals, an empirical study on teaching basic vocabulary to young children, they found that motivation and engagements can be linked to technology in the classroom, especially interactive technology. So they found that generally technology is extremely important and good for increasing motivation and engagement, but especially that interactive technology. And so these interactive strategies are good for motivation and engagement, which is in turn good for strengthening learning. In addition to these multisensory strategies being used to boost engagement and motivation, according to Nahed Mohammed Mahmoud Ghonaim and Heba El Sayed Abdelasalam El Gotmi, when discussing implications of their research, they found that these strategies that help boost motivation and engagement are relevant and useful for learners at all stages of their literacy development. They found this in their article, the effect of a suggested multisensory phonics program on developing kindergarten pre-service teachers' EFL reading, accuracy, and phonemic awareness. So they found that all of the motivation and engagement using multisensory strategies are effective not just for young learners, not just for higher grades. It's effective for all stages of learners. So motivation and engagement are extremely important for learning, and multisensory strategies are extremely beneficial for boosting that motivation and engagement. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Amy, and I'm going to be discussing why diverse and at-risk learners are such a large component of our larger research project on multisensory phonics instruction. The main ideas here is that multisensory phonics programs are beneficial for all learners. Multisensory instruction supports diverse and at-risk learners. Multisensory phonics programs are easily differentiated, and MSPPs offer specific gains for English language learners and those with dyslexia. Discussing how multisensory phonics programs are beneficial for not just diverse and at-risk learners, but all learners is important because in our specific research, our participants are at the kindergarten level. And in an inclusive classroom setting, creating instruction that is developmentally appropriate is pivotal during this sensitive period for young learners. That said, MSPPs are beneficial for students with both previously classified disabilities and those with reading difficulties who might not be classified for intervention or aren't yet classified officially. And considering that we're working with a really young kindergarten age and thinking more specifically about New York State and how it's rare for a kindergartner to be diagnosed with dyslexia at such a young age, offering multisensory phonics programs that are adaptive and flexible to these unique student needs from such a young age sets them up for success whether they're classified or not. This is made abundantly clear across all of our research, and much of the literature we reviewed suggests significant improvement across a wide range of initial abilities. Moving on to how MSIs support diverse and at-risk learners specifically, multisensory instruction in general, whether it be literacy related or not, is helpful for diverse and at-risk learners because teachers are able to acknowledge unique deficits and actively scaffold with students by enhancing these sensory experiences. Specifically, in a study working with deaf students, multisensory phonics programming specifically improved syntactic processing abilities in young learners by utilizing vibrotactile instruction. And this was specifically used in the Daza Gonzalez 2023 research in prelingual students that were in Spain. This is a very clear example of how elevating one's senses in one area to meet the need of a reader who might not be able to otherwise progress is imperative for long-term retention and success. It also creates an empowering atmosphere, specifically noted in Corpus and Mars 2024 conclusion that translanguaging is an example of a multisensory technique for students that might be at risk or diverse. So it kind of encourages them to do their best and persevere in a space and with instruction that might be more challenging due to the supports needed. So it lessens that kind of burden that they might feel. Multisensory phonics programs, or MSPPs, are also easily differentiated, especially when it comes to literacy instruction. This isn't a one-size-fits-all approach, and it can range in how multiple senses are targeted for benefiting student progress through additional visuals, kinesthetics, auditory, and tactile supports. In Lane Giles' 2021 study focusing on English language learners specifically, multisensory phonics instructions expanded on learning experiences while creating opportunities for students to create and curate significant background knowledge. And this is important for English language learners who might not have that experience speaking English. So creating supports that are multisensory, which encourage them to make these connections, is obviously very valuable. MSPPs are versatile because they aren't bound to one specific area or need, which makes it easy for literacy specialists and classroom teachers to support meaningful long-term progress. And lastly, more specifically, MSPPs offer gains for English language learners and those with dyslexia. So we talked a little bit about English language learners and their process, but much of the research also concerned young learners diagnosed with dyslexia and how MSPPs served as an important alternative for their learning. Because MSPPs are organized and structured, researchers have observed improved skill development and increased participation, according to Iglonomy and Gonium's 2024 article, and in Ahoka's 2024 conclusion related to increased phonological awareness and reading outcomes. Much of the research our group has looked through shows clear benefits compared to a control group without MSPPs present in both detailed-oriented skills of decoding and word recognition and more general sound letter recognition and greater phonemic awareness. And this was done in students specifically with dyslexia. Overall, multisensory instruction is important, but it's most important for diverse and at-risk learners because of how it meets their unique needs in a way that promotes equity and perseverance in young students. So in summary, based on our research problem and the review of the literature, we will use these questions to guide our research as we look to begin implementing our experimental setup into our participating kindergarten classroom. What is the impact of multisensory phonics instruction on kindergarten students' CBC word fluency achievement compared to traditional single sensory instruction? And what changes occur in students' on-task behavior during phonics lessons after implementing multisensory strategies?
Our group includes teachers from a variety of backgrounds as well as experience levels, but we are united by our shared beliefs in student-centered learning. We follow a constructivist approach, which emphasizes hands-on, meaningful experiences that actively engage students in the learning process. Our research focuses on how the use of multisensory phonics strategies can support student learning. Specifically, we are examining how these strategies can improve decoding skills, increase student engagement, and encourage persistence when students are facing challenges. This study centers on kindergarten students, focusing on their fluency while reading consonant-vowel-consonant, or CVC, words. We are also observing how engaged students are during phonics instruction when multisensory techniques are incorporated and utilized. We are conducting this research in a kindergarten classroom led by one of our group members. This provides us with an authentic learning environment where we can closely observe how students are responding to instructional strategies. Throughout the study, we will collect data on student engagement and participation during these phonics lessons that are delivered through a structured curriculum that is enhanced with multisensory elements. Finally, we acknowledge that our own perspectives could influence our observations. To address this, we are deeply committed to ongoing reflection and careful data analysis to ensure that our findings remain objective, non-biased, evidence-based, as well as transparent.